Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Campfire Stories. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Russian military and their psychological super soldiers,
Hmm.
as claimed or reported by them. Is
That's
this possible? Can this be possible? Can Putin train the Russian military with the super soldiers and with the mind powers that
uh,
can stop the heart and choke and kick and win the wars against
uh,
Western dominated powers.
uh,
Da, I mean,
Gasuchi.
did you say Vespucci?
I might be
Oh my
Italian
god, dude.
Russian.
A 2019 article claims demand in Popular Mechanics reported in 2019. A journal claims Russian troops have psychic powers. Did Russian soldiers working with telepathic dolphins learn how to interrogate captured enemies and see through time and space? Says
Dude,
the article.
that dolphin pussy, am I
Probably.
right, boys?
Give me that dolphin jelly. Putin knows. Look at him. We're going to harvest your jelly for the Russian people. Why would Popular Mechanics spoil the damn article, man? Out in the very beginning. An article in official army periodical is being ridiculed for claiming the Russian military has psychic abilities and has used them in wartime. The article makes big claims, but outside Russian critics claim it's all nonsense and that the article should have never appeared in a Russian military publication. The article, entitled Super Soldier for the Future Wars, was published in the February issue of the Russian Army's Army Digest. The author, reservist Colonel Nikolai Boroskov, makes reference to meta contact technology, which is apparently a new word for what the rest of the world calls psychic technology. Even better, the Russian military learned learned the technology from dolphins, they claim, which are naturally psychic. Didn't realize that. Did you realize that dolphins are actually psychic?
Really?
Hmm. As a result, according to Poroskov, a soldiers trained in the meta-contact arts can, and I quote here, see through a captured enemy soldier, what kind of person he is, what his weaknesses and strengths are, whether he will go to recruitment. The reliability of the interrogation is almost 100% accurate. From him, it is impossible to get out. Technologies of counteraction to such interrogation train special forces in case of being taken prisoner. The
Hmm.
highest, the highest persons of the country are the leaders of large industrial and banking structures in order to preserve state and commercial secrets. So there's evidently anti-psychic power techniques, according to this Russian article. Podoskov claims the technology can also help Russian soldiers master foreign languages, locate ambushes, warehouse, and enemy weapons caches. But it's not all mind reading tactics, however. Meta contact technology also has a weaponized side. Podoskov claims Russian army psychics can crash computers, burn out the crystals in electric generators, eavesdrop on conversations, jam TV and radio signals. And another experiment involved, of course, the infamous, for those of you who don't know, remote viewing, as it has become known across psychic researchers in the West, which is, of course, involved successfully reading a document locked in a safe, even though it was in a foreign language. It can also be used to identify terrorists and spies. Ruski spies will have the advantage over the Americans. Now, ironically, this was written in 2019. It's not helping them necessarily win the war against Ukraine.
Well, that's because Ukraine is landlocked.
I mean, you could argue that they could put an end to this anytime that they wanted, and I believe you would be correct. But however, they are still have been stalemated by now that might be because of Western involvement. We're not going to get into the politics because I want to know, demand and chat how oh, and the comment section, how likely it is that there are psychic powers in your opinion, and can they or will they be used in a military setting, right? Obviously, we're laughing and having a good time. Demand, what do you think personally about psychic extrasensory perception abilities evidently learned from dolphins? And while you do that, I'm going to look up, are dolphins psychic?
I think that's a bunch of balooey. You know, I think that if they were truly psychic, they would actually use it. But then a part of me thinks, well, if they were really psychic, right, they wouldn't want the
Right,
world to know. They'd try to bury
right,
the information and only use it in like black ops type situations, right?
right, right. And here's my question, right? Like, and I know I'm not necessarily like asking you specifically. Chat can answer if you want. Honestly, I mean this 100%. Bro, like, what is the range and usefulness of these psychic powers? Obviously, we're a damn side away from Dragon Ball Z's Tien Shinhan and like blasting, like, you know
Gikoha!
what I'm saying? Blasting out like beams from our brains, and like, so even if it was true, they wouldn't really necessarily have like an advantage. I mean, they're not going to be able to psychic powers their way out of getting blasted by a missile, from an aircraft carrier
Yeah.
like 17 miles away. Like you're not getting out of that. So like I wonder, even if all of these claims were real, like what it does it can it even defeat conventional technologies? And I guess that's where the dolphin theory sort of comes in. According to according to Google, no, there is no evidence that dolphins have psychic abilities. However, dolphins are intelligent and have many other remarkable abilities. They appear to show emotion, such as love, joy, pain, fear, and suffering. Dolphins have specialized brain cells, called spindle neurons, which are associated with advanced abilities like reasoning, problem solving, and communication. Evidently, this article claims they are self aware. Um, all right, and dolphins can sense electric fields, which may help them navigate and hunt. And of course, they have echolocation um, to share complex 3D images with one another. So,
So why isn't a
I mean,
dolphin trying to become like CEO if they're self-aware?
that's a good question, right? Like there's still some sort of genetic limitation for what they can do, as far as we understand. Maybe they're far superior to us in every single way. Um, exactly. Yeah. So long and thanks for all the fish. It says more because that's literally the plot to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That the dolphins are a higher intelligence that always try to warn us, and then they just like freaking bail and leave the earth before it's destroyed because they know. And so, I mean, not to debunk Russia's claims, but this does sound like a psyop. No, not a psychic op, but a psychological warfare tactic that probably isn't believed by anyone when questioned the United States when questioned by journalists whether the United States had their own psychic program, of course, was received with no comment.
We have nukes. That's what my if I was like the attorney general or whoever like makes the comment, that'd be my comment is like we have nukes.
I'm like, General Demand, do you care to comment on the Russian super soldiers with psychic
Hold on.
abilities? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Commodore Demand, do you care to make a comment on Russian super soldiers claiming to have psychic powers and what this means for conventional modern warfare going forward?
We got nukes. That's all.
Ex- Thank you very much for your comments. You just like waved to everybody so long. You're like President Demand incoming. You heard it here first.
Mm-hmm.
You heard it here. Just let us get it.
2042.
Let us get it. 2042. No, we're gonna be in battle by then, according to a lot of people.
Well, then you're gonna need someone like me as the helm.
So, as I said before, the Pentagon won't comment on Russia's fears of psychic weapons. Russian fears. Everybody's terrified. Um, According to this article that dropped earlier last year, um, the Department of Defense indeed won't comment on any psyop technology. Now we know in the past, man, that the United States has indeed invested a lot of money. And I don't know if you've ever seen Men Who Stare at Goats. Have you seen that movie? Yeah, that
No.
it's a comedy about that kind of thing that people believed. Well, there were reports of, you know, people having certain extrasensory perception, being able to tell where things were that were lost on the earth without any navigational equipment, predict certain events and things that are going to happen, which would be pretty valuable if proven true. Now, the problem is with many sciences is having a repeatable experiment, right? Anybody can
Right.
get lucky once or twice. Am I right?
Yeah, and the article you just read, there's no scientific claims, right? It's just like dolphins are psychic. Russian got super soldiers. All right.
it's, it's literally what it is, dude. So, according to this article, this past week, Foreign Policy wrote about a memo originally published in a Russian news outlet, which I just explained to you. The memo outlined the Russian Federal Guard Service, or FSO, would handle a war spilling in how they would handle a war spilling to Russian territory. That included the threat of psychic weapons, or psi generators, as they called them, and enemy forces with hypnotic abilities. The memo warned of psychological infection of personnel through these attacks, which pose a great risk. Isn't this like magic?
Side generator,
Like,
gotcha.
aren't they just talking about magic, dude? Like, isn't that where we are? They're literally talking about like, you know what I'm saying? Magical powers that can like influence and find out things. This is basically the Marvel universe's explanation for everything.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm wrong, dude. They're all like, dude, it's not magic. It's like, it's technology that we just can't explain, dude.
Yeah, man.
It's like, yeah, dude. You know what I'm saying? At a Pentagon briefing on Friday, January the 6th, 2023, with Pentagon Press Secretary Brigadier General Pat Ryder and Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Laura Cooper, Task and Purposes Jeff Scholgel asked about both newly announced weapons to Ukraine and the foreign policy article. Does the U.S. have any weapons or personnel who can get into the enemy's thoughts? Schogel asked. Quality journalism, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we got a blonde with double D's in the back.
So, psychic, like psychic attack, Ryder repeated for clarity. Cooper instead first answered about the RIM missiles. And then he is quoted as saying, I have nothing on your second topic. So he didn't say anything, dude. I mean, is that
We got
because we want the
nukes.
Russians? Oh my god, dude. As for how to deal with these purported rumored psychic attacks, the FSO memo outlined a few strategies. There were some obvious ones, of course, hyping up their forces by praising their strength and courage, and some less obvious ones. Those included visits to churches to pray, as well as pairing the mostly political savvy officers of the FSO to the least stable, the memo reads. So it's just like conventional psychological stuff, right?
Right.
Like encourage your troops, like the weaker troops, make sure that they're with a veteran to train them and help them. Um, so, of course, even some people in the Russian military scoffed at this article outlining the development of psychic super soldiers who could control animals via telepathy. Um, had been deployed to Chechnya, rumoredly. Alexandrov, uh, chairman of the Russian Academy of Sciences, called such claims fairy tale. I mean, so that's the end of Campfire Stories, I guess, dude. Right? Like
Yeah,
psychic
GG.
powers aren't real.
No
There's
scientific
no,
claims, there's no scientific studies, there's no scientists that made powerful observations or wrote articles on it.
except for the fact that this is Campfire Stories. Wait a minute, is my voice mod on? Except for the fact that this is Campfire Stories. And you know we ain't gonna do you like that. No, no, sir. No, ma'am. Prepare yourselves for the story of Nina Kulagina. That was a pretty good one, right?
It was
Was that a good
strong.
one?
It was a strong one.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the story of Nina Kulagina. Born 1926, she was a Russian woman whose apparent ability to move objects by psychokinesis attracted the interest of Russian and Western parapsychologists from the 1960s. Claims by skeptics that she practiced deception with hidden magnets and disguised threads were dismissed by investigating scientists. So before you're like, it's all smoke and mirrors, just wait. We're not even getting we're just getting warmed up.
Beep,
We hit
beep,
500.
No
bam,
No,
way,
bam,
dude.
sir.
bam,
At
Continue to
least you
bam.
could
interrupt.
at least you could edit this out. Sorry, future demand.
Yeah.
I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Dude,
Miles was 500.
no way, dude. No way. Our 500 subscriber is somebody we know.
Yeah, it was Miles.
No
Old dirty
way,
Dan.
dude. Congratulations. Thank you, everyone who let us get here for our 500th subscriber special on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to announce, those of you who are at the subathon already know, we're going to be duo streaming to YouTube from, yeah, to be announced. But we're not going to be moving permanently away from Twitch, but we also are going to be streaming to YouTube to increase our watch hours. So we're going to encourage everyone, if you want to have both of those streams up and help us out, it's a tremendous help. It's going to increase our watch hours, help us to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark so that we can get monetized and move to the next realm of quality video game comedy entertainment. Also, we have Campfire Stories YouTube channel. For those of you who enjoy that, much
The whale
smaller
baby.
channel, just it's a baby channel, just started growing. That's where you're gonna find this content. Our mod Kiwi will put it in chat. You can find all of this content live on that channel and in its rawest, most delicious form, which is how you like it. Yeah. So subscribe over there for that. If you want quality video game content, of course, the Dr. Man Show is there. Hold on one second. What do we have here? My wife just brought me something. Come here, cheers me. You know what happened? She doesn't know. She's
She
desperate as a
doesn't
kitty.
know.
We just hit 500 subs on YouTube. She's tripping. Cheers.
Sorvince. Vespucci.
Oh, yeah. She just brings me these randomly.
That looked like that had Jaeger in it.
We're gonna go in and
We're-
finish this up. My lips is black. Hold on, here we go. I gotta put on the conspiracy glasses. Are y'all ready for this? Who's heard of the story of Nina Kulagina? Let's start it over. Nina Kulagina, born 1926, was a Russian woman who apparently had the ability to move objects with psychokinesis and attracted the interest again of Russian and Western parapsychologists. Upon further scrutiny, some claimed that she manipulated some of these tests, and I'll go through a list of some of the things she could do with hidden magnets, disguised threads, and the like. But however, no evidence of fraud demand was ever produced. Mhm. Nina Kulagina was born July 30th, 1926 in Leningrad, now known as St. Petersburg, where she lived her entire life. Um, the in Russian media, she was referred to as Nelia Mikolaevi, Mikol Mik Mika Mika Mekahanido.
Mikhailova.
I can't. I literally.
Mikhailova.
hmm So her name actually wasn't. Her name actually wasn't Nina Kulagina. I don't. Kulagina took part in the Red Army's defense of Leningrad during the Nazi siege, along with her father, brother, and sister. So she was a military woman, becoming a radio operator in a tank regiment of at least at the age of 14. At age 17, she was wounded in the abdomen. Dude, she's like a if
Oof.
she's an American, she's like a Purple Heart veteran, dude. This
Dude,
woman.
Russian Plan B is intense.
Dude, it's so it's so intense. After the war, she married Viktor Vasilyevich Kulagina, a Russian naval engineer, and bore 3 children, dude. She
Wow.
dropped 3 calves, bro. Congratulations, Nina and Victor.
Respawn.
Uh, in the early 1960s, Kulagina was hospitalized for a nervous breakdown, possibly because she couldn't control her powers. You be the judge, man. You be the judge. Possibly as a result from the chronic, but more likely as a result from her chronic pain from her wound or from delayed post-traumatic stress disorder, or as they called it back in the day, the shell shock. Early in December 1963, she heard a radio report about a woman who could see colors with her fingers and declared, I can do that, recalling that while convalescing in the hospital, she had been able to pick the colored threads she needed for her embroidery from an opaque bag without looking at them. To convince her disbelieving husband, she demonstrated this ability while blindfolded. In repeat experiments, she showed that as well as correctly identifying hidden colors, she could read text, discern the dates on coins, and accurately reproduce simple drawings made by him in a separate room. These experiments came to light some weeks later when the couple told the doctor about them. 2 decades of investigation on her additional aptitude for psychokinesis followed. Of course, she was going to be tested. What an amazing ability, am I right, man? What are we going to do with this, right? What's the government going to do?
Breed her for more children to turn into Russian super soldiers so they could have sex with the dolphins.
That's a disgusting comment, but you actually bring up a good point. Like, I wonder if any of her children have this ability, right? You would think you would only assume that it was passed down like generation to generation, possibly genetically. Maybe she was like the next jump in evolution. I realize it's hard to say, but yeah. So these tests were mostly conducted by Russian scientists, but also intermittently by 5, no less than 5 Western scientists who became aware of Kulagina through a 1968 documentary film. We might have to get our hands on that and watch that for our Patreon content. You feel me? Shout out to y'all, by the way. More than 100 and possibly more than 200 sessions were undertaken, some in
Oh,
laboratories.
so these were like scientific experiments.
This
Shout
was
out
not
non-believers.
shout out non-believers, the haters. What's up, Suji? Let me give you a heart. Shout out to man
Suji's love hearts.
with that tentacle. So what we have is we have a woman with outlandish claims from Russia, a mother, a veteran, somebody potentially with PTSD. It's hard to say that if these claims were real, like what was the catalyst for these powers that she potentially had? Like how did she get these? Did her traumatic past like have something to do with that? Like it's
Krypton.
really interesting, but nonetheless, these experiments were as scientifically monitored as you could possibly get in 1968. So it wasn't just Russian propaganda. As I said, no less than five Western scientists in possibly more than 200 sessions that were undertaken, some in laboratories, proved that potentially she had these abilities. Unfortunately, after a long period of poor health, Kulagina died of a heart attack on April 11th, 1990, at age 63.
What if our kids killed her? There can only be one.
Stop. Stop trying to attribute the plot of the Highlander to Kulagina's children, man.
Yeah, but like, what if there could only be one psychic in the bloodline, and she died of a heart attack? A heart
Because there was
attack.
more than one. What if all three of her kids were like psychic children? You know the
Yeah.
Russians probably tested her, right? You
Oh,
know they probably
100%.
did.
They're probably still alive somewhere in like a compound somewhere.
I know what you're asking yourself, though, right? You're saying, Doctor Man, what could she do, right? What could she do? What were her abilities? What were her claimed abilities? Are you ready for this? We're gonna get in so deep here before we go to the video game content. Let's go, man. You ready?
Hmm.
Typically, Kulgina sat at a small table during these scientific tests and was observed to move small objects placed in front of her without touching them. Apparently, by a process of mental concentration, the objects included were things such as matchsticks, an empty box of matches, a cigarette, an empty metal salt shaker, and even a wristwatch. I feel like Penn and Teller have done this right in front of me, but it's fine. It's fine.
But
We're
they weren't
taking
real.
this. It's true. The usual starting distance between her and the objects was about half a meter, but successes from up to 2 meters away were reported. Sometimes she succeeded with objects placed on a chair or on the floor, even or like further away.
Right.
Initially, the objects moved towards her. In a later phase, they tended to move away. At first, Gulgania moved her body or pointed her head, but later she also made hand movements, which she felt aided the process. She had to do a little Harry Potter, you know what I mean? Yeah, little, you know
Levilosa.
what I mean? Little diddly diddly, you know what I mean?
Whoa, whoa.
What? What? The movements were sometimes fairly smooth and other times jerky. For an extended movement, several spells of short motion were performed. The movements were slow and did not achieve momentum, requiring the continued application of force to maintain. Although they would sometimes continue for a short time after Kulgania stopped concentrating. It just sounds like she was having a seizure. I'm not gonna lie, but the stuff moved. Stuff moved. She found it easy to move a long object standing on its end. Even one as light as a cigarette tended not to fall over while being moved. According to researchers, objects ranged in size from a single match to a 10 centimeter plexiglass cube, which moved while she was attempting to move items inside of it.
So strong.
Dude, this woman was the next level, bro.
She was like Cat
She
from
was
X-Men.
she was able to move a single object. She was able to move a single object among many along a predetermined course, or several at once in one direction, or two in different directions. Dude,
This is all like done in a scientific
Moore
like
tends to
way.
move objects when he is having a seizure as well.
As they fly off the table.
As he punches out several orderlies, he's like Chris Farley in that scene when he realizes the Folgers crystals like were fake, and he's just like, ah, and like 7 people are holding each arm back. She was also observed to spin a compass needle 360 degrees in either direction,
Okay.
stop a pendulum, or change the direction of its swing. Move a hydrometer floating in water within a wire cage. And prevent a scale from unbalancing when extra weight was placed on one of its pans. Bro,
Okay.
what? Excuse me? Black and white photos, if you want to zoom in on this, show her levitating a small ball between her hands. Though the original source is not clear, Sergeyev stated that the observed feat, that he observed this feat.
Wasn't
that
he
she's
a
doing it.
scientist, Sergeyev?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I
so
think so.
leaves your heart
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, you would literally be like, well, somebody threw the ball through it. There it is. Sergeyev stated that he observed her doing this live.
A scientific
Kulagina
setting.
was reported to have stopped the beating of a disembodied frog's heart as a crowning achievement.
Wait, disembodied frog's heart? So it's already going to die.
Um,
I can do that too.
you just wait.
All right. All right. Hold up.
Not looking.
Hold up.
This campfire is not looking good, man. We need to pull this one out. We got to pull this one out, man.
Keep going.
Wait a minute. We're not done. Shut up, Chad. We're not done. We're not cooked. This is the Dr. Man show, damn it. She is also reported to have revived a fish that was nearly dead, assumedly probably putting it back in water.
But Doc, these were scientific experiments.
I should have never had that shot. We were celebrating, dude. I got too deep in, bro. I got too deep in. Herbert.
Herbert.
I don't know who that is. I can't remember. I'm just assuming he's another scientist. Herbert described it as an unbearable pain, while Keel and Fowler felt endurable heat and pain and retained burn marks without blistering. So
Whoa.
what that means is
she had pyrokinesis. That's cool.
yeah. So Kulagina reportedly could induce the sensation of heat on a person's skin with a light contact of her hand. The intensity, of course, depended on the person. As I said, a thermometer placed between her hand and the observers showed no change in actual temperature.
Ooh. That's pretty cool.
So that's interesting because like monks can heat up their hands, and perhaps it was just simply just, an increase in heartbeat, And like that's 100% real. Like, by the way, you can, through meditation and training, like increase the amount of heat output. Some people can do it naturally. That is a scientific fact, right? But this evidently
Interesting.
was something. This was something
Even
separate from
hotter.
that, right? They could burn without blistering. Sergeyev stated that Kulgina was able to psychokinetically draw simple patterns on photosensitive paper, but Western scientists, however, obtained no tangible evidence of this. She wasn't all superpowers,
Wait,
however,
but the
man.
Western scientists confirmed that she could heat people up? She
Yeah,
could burn people?
everything. Yep. And she could levitate objects and move stuff
Whoa.
around.
Okay. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah, they didn't see her draw simple patterns on photosensitive
Oh,
paper with her psychic powers. But the Russian scientists did. Take that for what you will.
suka.
Golgina was, unfortunately, like I said, not all. She wasn't all superpower. She could be nerfed. Golgania was able to successfully produce uh, PK effects in some of 80% of her attempts on average. So we're not talking about like 100% success rate,
Oh,
right?
she's
Like
not a fraud.
Dr. Man Show pulls her out. 80% of the time she's gonna do something wild, but not always. Um, Keel and his co-authors estimate this percentage. The presence of hostile observers, of course, inhibited her. If you were hostile to her, she wasn't able to perform. But if she persisted, she would eventually succeed. So if you were overly critical or mean to her, she wouldn't be able to she would be able to
You're
perform.
hard to without
Shout out.
feelings.
I mean, yeah, shout out to all men, ladies, just chill. Screens made of various materials had no inhibiting effect. Notably, she was unable to move an object in a vacuum, however, although this may have been a result not of the vacuum itself, but of the object being concealed in a hermetically sealed container, which appeared to have an inhibiting effect. So basically, when she couldn't use any wires or magnetic things, like her ability seemed to have no use. But we don't know. We're going to keep going. Gulgania stated that the PK was difficult to achieve during hot weather and storms. So her powers were inhibited by hot weather and storms. Sergeyev determined that high humidity was also an
Bro,
inhibitor.
what? Dude, Florida's safe from any psychokinetic mumbo jumbo. Brother, dude, I'm safe and sound, baby. No one can harm this big brain of mine.
America has fallen, all except Florida and northern Georgia. They remain impervious to our psychokinetic powers.
Yes,
As
but
these
the
Florida man remain a problem for glorious revolution.
Atlanta
Cocaine.
roads don't really exactly know what they're doing.
I
We
knew
are
you were going to
afraid
shit
of
on it.
Atlanta roads. They just no,
I,
suka bread.
Suka. I knew you were going to shit on Atlanta. I knew you were going to do it. Evidently, Colginia's heart rate was found to increase during her PK attempts.
Oh,
And it got as high as 240 beats per minute.
ow.
Um, Ullman measured a resting heart rate of 85 and a working heart rate of 132. Colgania tended to lose as much as 2 kilograms of weight
What?
during sessions, more than would typically be lost in a similar period by means of strenuous physical exercise. So Colgania was a sweater, dude.
Dude,
She
I
was
need
a
to become
sweater.
a psychic.
You need to start trying harder. All y'all do. If you want to lose some damn weight. Also,
It's all mental,
tons
baby.
of liquid. Adverse effects reported by her included, after her sessions, extreme exhaustion, dizziness, pain in the neck, upper spine, legs, and feet, general aches and pains, and a metallic taste in her mouth.
She has diabetes.
Probably from straining until she bled from her nose. So she sometimes required breaks of 1 or more days between sessions. EEG monitoring showed marked changes during these PK effects, including a concentration of energy in the direction of
So
Kulgina was gazing.
they actually have scientific proof that like there's more
EEG
energy.
monitoring. Yes, they marked changes that in the direction she was facing, energy, marked energy changes were observed.
Wow.
The Dr. Man show will get a hold of this, but Kulginia's PK effects were often filmed, first by her husband and then by others. Many clips can be found on YouTube and some in this hyperlink here, showing the addition of hand movements, tests with compasses, and subjective
What's up?
sensations of heat.
Put him in video.
Just play it, just run it while I'm talking about it.
Okay.
And her final test, in which she was unable to perform a PK event. The video that you're watching now includes a short interview with Keel in the film from when he and Pratt unexpectedly drop in on Kulgania and she invited them to stay for dinner and a PK demonstration. So there you have it. We can't forget. Let's give a shout out to the critics, right? We got to give a shout out to the critics.
Mm-hmm.
Accusations of fraud were made against Kulgania from the outset of the investigations. And of course, they've continued to the present day. We laughed a little bit here on the Dr. Man show. That's not to say that we personally don't believe in any psychic powers. I feel like human intuition is proof enough of some sort of extra sensory perception, right? The feeling that the vibes are off, as the kids say, right? Like, always better to listen to your inner your inner voice in situations that you just where things are just off, right? That's just historical. So, not that these things are completely irrelevant, but there are hucksters, there's scammers, there's people who like to pretend. Um, According to Kulgania's husband, the first Soviet scientist to invite her into a laboratory, L.L. Savili of Leningrad University, was open to the possibility that her abilities were real, having previously written a book on psychokinesis. However, his junior associates believed that she was fooling the gullible old professor by using invisible threads, and the university's authorities ordered him to cease experimentation. Similar problems plagued her and Russian scientists throughout the investigation. One scientist, Eduard Numov, was arrested by the KGB and imprisoned for a year in a work camp, apparently because his frequent meetings with Western psychologists related to his work with Kulgania aroused police suspicions. So
What?
that's just communism in action. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
papers,
just what they
please.
do. In 1986, article for Pravda assessed media claims concerning Kulgania. It cites alongside positive testimonies a report in Leningrad Evening newspaper that it states that in 1965, scientists at Moscow Research Institute of Meteorology concluded unanimously that she had used small magnets to conceal in intimate places, and that other experiments it performed were set to exclude fraud did not yet yield positive results. The Pravda article also states that Leningrad Psychoneurological Institute concluded the claims amount to a public fraud. The same article
Hmm.
reveals that Kulgania served jail sentence for fraudulent intrigues, implying a tendency toward criminal activity that could explain her psychokinesis
She was a
activity. That's
criminal?
true. Well, you have to understand she also had PTSD. Like people that suffer from psychological disorders are more likely to commit like criminal acts, right?
Right.
Like that's just say that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, right? There were many Western critics. Similar claims have been made by Western critics to assert Kulgania manipulated objects by means of magnets concealed in her clothing or vagina.
What?
Never doubt the pussy magnet.
That's what they call me in high school.
The chick magnet. Several authors quoted by Wikipedia. Well, there's a source you need to believe that Kulgania was caught cheating by Soviet scientists. These critics appear to be mainly based on assertions by get out of here by skeptic Martin Gardner in works criticized the girls are up. Parapsychology and paranormal claims. Gardner describes Kulgania as a pretty, plump, dark-eyed little charlatan who took the stage name of Ninel because it is linen spelled backwards. Ninel.
Ninel.
And is pure showbiz, they said. However, there were counterclaims, man. Things are complicated. As my Psych 101 teacher taught me in Suji, things are indeed complicated. Keel and colleagues devote a section of their detailed paper to the issue of potential fraud by Kulgania. Keel, the lead author, asserts that despite accusations, so far, no direct evidence exists that she ever used deception during her PK demonstrations. With regard to the report by the Institute of Meteorology, upon which some criticism is based, Keel points out that it includes a statement indicating that a strong magnetic field was detected around Kulgania's body in the criticism that she was a charlatan, which may have led some or all of the investigators to conclude that Kulgania was actually concealing magnets. So they detected a magnetic field generating around her body, and they surmised she was using magnets. They have no proof she was.
Wow.
None. However, no search was made, and there was therefore no verdict, no direct evidence of this. Alternatively, Keel suggests that this interpretation may have been made also by later critics.
Hold on, Doc. Didn't they say that she moved a cigarette?
Dude, she moved all kinds of stuff.
Magnetic
Watches,
and
cigarettes,
non-magnetic.
matchboxes. Yes. Like stuff that has no magnetic field. Yes. She was able to move things through concentration. You're watching the video right now, dude. Don't forget, though, the story ends with a defamation lawsuit because no good paranormal, parapsychology, para ghost
Paralympics.
story. Paralympics ends without a good quality lawsuit. A second police investigation some years later followed complaints that Kulgania was acting as a fraudulent psychic. This was brought up in the course of a 1986 defamation trial instigated by Kulgania against a popular monthly magazine entitled Man and Law, published by the Soviet Ministry of Justice. Now that's that's an organization you want to trust, dude. The Soviet Ministry of Justice, the man.
Suka, we speak about the justice.
Suka Justice.
Yes.
The publication the the publication had accused her of cheating, and this second investigation was cited by the defendant as further evidence of her bad character. But there was no sign that any charges were brought against her for this. Several Russian witnesses testified in her defense, including reputable scientists at that time, a journalist, a documentary filmmaker who potentially had money to make, and others. One was Numov. I had an R in there. It's like Naumov. who pointed out that Kulagina had shown no desire for publicity or profit. The jury ruled in Kulagina's favor, finding that the
Wow.
magazine could produce no tangible evidence of fraud by Kulagina, although it stopped short of endorsing her ability, of course, and the court ordered the magazine publish a retraction.
She
Yes,
won.
she won, dude. Nobody could prove that she indeed was a fraud. And so ends the story of Ninel Kulagina,
Suka.
potentially Suka Psychic, you might even say.
Be it.
And dude, one of the greatest campfire stories I think we've ever talked about.
A real psychic.
Powers, a real one. As far as we could tell, you've watched videos of her doing it in real time. Were these like staged?
I
Was
don't
she
know, bro. Because like
a
this,
Russian accent?
the
Yeah, do
start
you
of
honestly?
the videos, honestly, I'm starting to believe it. Because if you look, her hands aren't anywhere near the table. They're like in front of her, in front of the table. And she
Yeah.
like waves her hands around it, and she like moves matchboxes. But then later on, you see like she's in like facilities. Like
Yeah,
scientists
she's in
place the
labs.
matchbox. The matchbox doesn't have like metal in it because the scientists place it. And now she's touching
Exactly.
this dude, and the dude's just like, "Whoa, what? I'm burning up."
Dude, I mean,
I think
it's.
I had my doubts at first, but this is
I mean, even if you want to go into it, like even the CIA and Americans have invested hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially billions,
that's Ron
in
Swanson.
attempting to Ron Swanson. The U.S. government and the CIA have invested, hundreds of thousands of dollars in psychic technology and testing, right? Attempting
Correct.
to either unlock or control latent abilities in human beings because the fact of the matter is this, right? All bullshit aside, there is something to this. Some people have abilities and awareness that there is no scientific explanation for, and it's worth studying. Now, obviously, there's charlatans. There's people out there who have something to gain from this, but there are also scientific tests of people reported in instances, again, very difficult to reproduce, but in instances having an extra sensory perception of their surroundings, of information that they were not privy to. And yes, some of it could be coincidence, but it happens so much. Like, when is it not considered like a fraud or fake, right? When is it no longer a coincidence? When is it something is happening, right? You hear a lot of people who are religious. God told me to go here. God told me to do that. There's instances of people saying God told me to get off the plane, and then the plane crashes. It's like, okay, but
Yeah.
how would you have known that, right? Does this denote an extra sensory perception? And perhaps in the moment, you felt or had knowledge that was unique to you, that no one else sensed, right? So that's really the question we're asking here. It's not necessarily, is Nina Kulagina a fake? Is the Russian psychic troops, are they frauds? It's that what is the truth? What are the abilities that human beings possess, right? In dreams and in senses.
She's causing this Asian gentleman just pain on the back of his neck. He's just like, "What? What?"
He deserved it. That's what he gets for testing Nina. Do it, Nina. Burn him up.
Like, oh, that's been the campfires, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Campfire Stories.